Whoa boy, here we go. Time to set up the residential design. So we're going to go over here into models and click on new. And then you need to browse. Now it might pull up immediately something into Windows C. So click on this. You need to go to your Google Drive. That's how you get to your Imperial library, your English Imperial. So navigate to the folder that you put your English Imperial in. And here is mine. And we're going to scroll down to templates. And I want to open up templates and click on residential default and click OK. And there we go. Now we are in our residential default template. We have a lot of additional floor things down here in the project browser, which we're going to take a look at in a second. But this is a very common thing that happens all the time. People accidentally close the project browser and the properties panel, and they're like, how do I get back? If you right click anywhere inside here, you can open up the properties panel, right click, you can open up the project browser. That's probably the easiest way. So I just wanted to give you that little tip. We are going to rename basement. So right click basement. We're going to rename this crawl space. Crawl space. There we go. Hit enter. Would you like to rename all views? Yes, we are going to rename all views. We do not need a basement electrical. So I'm going to right click that and delete that. I'm going to right click first floor framing and delete that. We're going to right click first floor electrical, delete that. We will be doing some electrical stuff, but we're not going to be doing that within Revit. We're going to do it a little separate from that. We will have a roof plan, but we don't need to have this roof framing. We don't need to have a second floor electrical, second floor framing. We also don't need to have the ceiling plan because we're not going to put ceiling tiles in our house. So that's going to show up in a slightly different fashion. So that should give us what we need to have, and that way you won't accidentally jump into the ceiling plan. There we go. So now we have our basic setup at this point. Now I'm going to open up north elevation. So I'm going to double click north, and you notice here that I did delete second floor over in the project browser, but it is showing it right over here. So I'm going to right click that. And I'm going to delete that. There we go. So that's gone. And I'm going to set my roof level to 9 feet and hit enter. We are going to be adjusting these other ones later on. Now our roof level is at 9 feet. You'll note that we are going to make our interior walls 8 feet tall, but because of framing members, we're going to set this to 9 feet because that's probably more likely what it's going to look like from the exterior of this house. So we're trying to give a more accurate representation of what we're doing. So let's go back into our first floor view. And next we're going to add some walls. So if I click wall, then up here in my properties panel, it shows it to me. This is the beauty of using the residential default. That's why we had to choose that for our template, because it gives us some really good templates. It gives us an exterior wall, wood siding on wood stud, and it gives us an interior wall, which is exactly what we're looking for. So let's take a look at the exterior wall, exterior wood siding on wood stud. So you can scroll up and down, make sure you get to that one. And when I look at this, I'm going to edit type. So I just want you to sort of pay attention to the properties on this. So if I edit this structure, you'll notice that it already has siding, clapboard siding, air infiltration, 1/2 inch plywood, 2x6 because it's 5.5 inches, vapor barrier, and then gypsum wallboard, 1/2 inch gypsum wallboard on the inside. So they've already preset this exactly as I want this wall to be. They even show you the R value. It's 8.3. So why isn't it higher? Because they don't show you the insulation that would be inside a 2x6 wall, which is probably about an R19. So if you add 19 to 8, then we're getting about 27 for the R value, which is pretty good for an exterior wall. So just want you to kind of see some of the extra things you can do with Revit as far as finding R values and things like that. So we actually don't need to do anything to this. It's perfect as it is. And the same thing is true for this interior wall. If I edit type and I go into it, you can see it's a 1/2 inch wallboard, and it's a 2x4, so it's 3.5 inches, and then another 1/2 inch gypsum wallboard. So those are already preset, so that is pretty convenient. Convenient.